This is a 411 with Jessica Washington. Today I'm on with Admiral Kirby, National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications, to talk about Israel, Gaza, and what the United States is doing in the region. I just wanted to start this off by giving you a brief moment to address the New York Times reporting that Israel had the plans of Hamas's terrorist attack on October 7th. Did the U.S. know of this intelligence? And if not, does this change anything about our position?
Thank you for the question. And thanks particularly for giving me this opportunity to be with you today. I'm very excited. I'm afraid I'm not going to be in a position to confirm the details of that New York Times story. And obviously, we wouldn't speak to intelligence matters publicly, but I'm going to have to refer you to the Israeli government and to the Israeli Defense Forces for a comment on that.
I want to get into the humanitarian pause and the hostage deal that was brokered in part by the White House. Can you tell us what was the most important thing the Biden administration did to help achieve that deal?
It was really the result of a lot of hands-on diplomacy from the president right on down. And the president was personally engaged and involved in moving that deal to completion and getting it over the finish line. Multiple calls with Prime Minister Netanyahu, with the Emir of Qatar, Qatar has a relationship with Hamas, and of course, President Sisi of Egypt. But again, Secretary Blinken was actively involved. The National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, was on the phone with his counterparts. And of course, we have a team on the ground led by a special envoy, David Satterfield, who also was working this literally around the clock. And I would be remiss if I didn't also mention the CIA Director, Bill Burns, and his involvement, his contacts in the intelligence community, and our coordinator, Brett McGurk, here at the National Security Council. So a lot of team effort here, but led personally by the president because he believed that it was very, very important to get a pause in the fighting so that we could get people out, hostages. And now we've gotten about 100 out through this deal and get really just as critically assistance into the people of Gaza who so desperately need it. Hundreds of trucks got in over the last week, food, water, medicine, and importantly, fuel. Fuel that can help run the desalination plants so people can get fresh water, fuel to run the generators at hospitals so medical care can continue. Really important work got done over the past week.
You know, the administration has had a lot of critiques, particularly from prominent Black leaders, of its support of Israel in this region, particularly what's happened in Gaza. In light of how many Palestinians have been killed, including at least 6,000 children, can you explain why the administration has fought back against any constraints on aid to Israel?
I appreciate that question. And the president respects that and understands that there are strong feelings on all sides here. He knows that. And the president also grieves and mourns with all the families that have been affected by the violence, whether they're Palestinian or Israeli. We recognize that many thousands of Palestinians have been killed and many thousands more have been wounded. And then hundreds of thousands have been displaced internally inside Gaza, away from their homes and from their businesses, internally displaced inside that region. And so we're working very, very hard. And again, we understand the concerns here, but we've been working very hard with our Israeli counterparts to be more tailored, to be more cautious, to be more deliberate in the way they go after their military objectives and their targeting so that they can minimize those civilian casualties.
I mean, if we continue to provide, billions, millions of dollars without, saying you can't, maybe, for example, bomb hospitals or what happened with the refugee camps, things of that nature that obviously the U.S. government has, said things about, how do we ensure that those things don't happen moving forward?
Anytime we give security assistance to another military, it comes with an expectation that assistance is going to be used in accordance with international law and the law of armed conflict, which means it's going to come with an understanding that there's going to be an effort to reduce any damage to civilian infrastructure and certainly reduce any loss of innocent life. And that hasn't changed here. We have been, again, very strident with our Israeli counterparts, but we do believe that the approach that we've taken has worked. I mean, we got a week-long pause in the fighting. That, I'm sure, saved lives. We got aid and assistance in food, water, medicine, and fuel, which we also think has saved Palestinian lives. And of course, we were able to get 100 hostages out, including a couple of Americans, a little 4-year-old girl and a 49-year-old woman, American citizen, in addition to, again, some 100 others. That has helped save those lives. So we're very focused on this. And again, understand where the criticism is coming from. But the president truly believes that if we hadn't taken this approach since October 7th, that we would be in a much more difficult place with our Israeli counterparts in terms of the manner in which, the way in which they're conducting military operations.